Hey guys, what's up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today let's go over the market. Tesla, what a surprise. Another red day on the green market day. What a surprise. What an absolute shocker that is. But guys, let's talk about it. What is happening with Tesla? Are we finally at the damn bottom? Can we finally get some kind of actual bounce? Is the pain over? What's happening, right? So first and foremost, guys, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like button. Again, none of this is financial advice, but let's just jump into it. So like I said, Tesla down pretty much 3% at $191.27, while the market was decently green. Not like extremely green, but regardless, Tesla with a pretty severe underperformance. Also, a lot of volume coming in on today. On a day that is kind of like a battle between bulls and bears, it feels like, because the bears push it down all the way to 187, which, by the way, if you look back at my previous videos, I've had this 187 line here, for a while, like weeks, if not even maybe months. And this 182 line as well, right? So these have been here for quite some time. And I've been talking about these levels for, I think, honestly, back when we were still like all the way up here or something like that. People will call me crazy. But yeah, here we are. We are pretty much exactly at the level I was talking about probably like 2 months or something like that ago, right? The 180s level. I said 185-ish. We hit 187. I would say that's pretty close. So is this the bottom? Are we finally bouncing? What's next? Today was the midterm elections that brought a bit of, I don't know. I want to say fear to the market, but not really. So it's fear to Tesla because, probably with Elon, the whole like political stuff he's doing on Twitter, whatever. Let's just talk about it. So first and foremost, Tesla gapping down today, plummeting. I think as low as, it was like maybe 4.5% or so near the bottom, which is quite a bit. I did personally buy just under 150 shares of Tesla today, right? I bought about like 47 or something like that on my smaller accounts. And I think I did 47, something like that. And then I bought 100 shares on my main accounts, pretty much more or less around this level that we closed at, like this 191-ish level, right? So that's that. And the main reason I did that is because, well, this is a damn good price level to buy, right? Now, overall, again, not financial advice, make your own decisions, blah, blah, blah. Now, the first thing I want to talk about, and I talked about this yesterday, right? I said how we closed below 200, and that's not good. It's overall looking pretty bearish, and I definitely want to see what today brings. If there's follow through or if there's no follow through. Clearly, we did see follow through on the bearish play, and we came down another like almost 5%, right? However, we did come down to my ultimate, not my ultimate price target, but my main first price target. I've been talking about these 180s for a while, this 187 being the first and the 182 kind of being the second, if you will, right? But essentially these 180s level I've been talking about for super long. If you've been following the channel for a while, you should know that. And we finally got here, right? As kind of crazy as it sounded, like even like 2 months ago, right? We got here. We're finally here. We're ready to go. We're at this level. What does it mean now? Well, I personally think that we should get a bounce here, right? There's a chance we still come down to 182 before we get an actual bounce, but ultimately, I definitely think we should get a bounce on Tesla. Now, Tesla is not following the market whatsoever. The market has been kind of soaring the last 4 days. Not soaring, but definitely green, right? I mean, from the lowest of the last 4 days, it went from 368 for SPY to closing, let's say today at 382, right? That's a percent move from the low point to just today's close. It's about almost a 4% move, right? On the QQQ, which Tesla kind of follows a little bit more closely. We went from about 3.5%, right? While in those same 4 candles, we'll say 1, 2, 3, 4, Tesla went from, let's just do the closing price of the 4th candle, which is here, all the way down to, let's say, the low, down about 13% in the last 4 trading days from the closing price of this 4th candle, right? That is insane, right? That's pretty ridiculous. So completely not following the market. However, we did finally get here. And I also talked about yesterday how if we do come down to, these 180s level, and the RSI on the daily, you can look back at yesterday's video, and I specifically said this, if we come down, make an actual, like much more obvious lower low to the 180s, and the RSI is still setting a higher low, which we currently are, which is a good sign. That to me, like I said, is a good sign. Like I said also here, we're coming down like this. However, the RSI is moving its way up. That to me is a bullish divergence still hanging on. That is a good sign to me. Right? That's kind of what I want to see. You can also draw something like this, and you can see we are essentially touching this line over here. You can see this is a line that we've been touching several times. You can see, put it on this one here, right? We touch, ideally when you draw these lines, you want to touch as many wicks or candles as you can. So we touch this one, we touch this one, and we touch this one, more or less, right? You can see something like this, give or take, whatever. You can do like this, which lines up, or you can even do like this, which also lines up. The point is the fact that we are essentially in this little important range right here that we are now potentially bouncing off of at the exact perfect spot that we needed to, which is a great news. So on top of this technical analysis right here being something that is important, we are also setting a higher low while setting a lower low on the stock. So this to me so far looks good, and that's why I personally picked up shares instead of selling. I still have one sold put at 200, by the way, which I kind of hope it executes and I buy more. But I also bought shares instead of selling another put, mainly because, man, these prices are great and I want to buy. I want to get some shares. I want to buy shares at this price. Even if we go down further, I'll have more cash. It's fine. You know, I have reserve cash, like I said, for these levels down here. If we come down here, which we still can. I still don't think this could be like the bottom, but this is definitely a potential bottom. Now, another thing that's important to talk about. This is more on, and this is important, sentiment, right? Sentiment is extremely important. Now, everyone always talks about before how no one ever predicted the previous crashes. All the previous crashes happened out of nowhere. No one expected it. It was when everyone least expected it. We have to keep in mind that we're also in a completely different day and age right now, right? That back then when we had those crashes like the 2008 crash, social media and everything wasn't anywhere near as prevalent. I don't even think it nearly existed. I can't remember anymore. I did live through that, obviously. I am 31 years old, but from what I remember, it either didn't exist or was extremely minor still, right? No one used it anywhere near as much as today, so people couldn't expect it and see it and communicate all these things that we can do now anywhere near to the same level, like not even remotely close. So that's part of the reason why, you know, sometimes these crashes can be a lot more, not a lot more, but easier to spot, mainly because there's just so much more tools of communication among people in general, right? That's number one. Number two, and this is important. I have a friend that I talked to. He's like a lawyer. I'm not sure exactly how old he is. I think he's like maybe in the 50s or something like that. Smart guy, very smart guy. He's been trading for like decades at this point. And he has friends that own Tesla, and they own, like, they're not just, you know, people, like, they own a lot of Tesla, like millions of dollars of Tesla, like 40,000 of shares or something like that, he said, right? Like a crazy amount of shares, right? And he said that they are starting to not necessarily capitulate, but they're like really damn close. Like they're asking him like, oh my goodness, like what do I do? Why is it falling? What's happening? Should I sell? Like, right? They're asking these kind of questions to him, and he views that as a potential, you know, potential bottom for Tesla, because that's the kind of fear that you want to start seeing. Personally, I don't see that fear yet. I'm personally not fearful at all. Maybe that's just, I don't know. I'm not sure why. I'm not really scared at all. If it falls further, I don't really give a shit. I'll buy more. That's fine with me. But that's just something else to consider. Sentiment, right? What is the sentiment around the stock right now? Disney, by the way, falling 5%. That's not good. So that's another thing to kind of incorporate, in my opinion, into technical analysis, right? Sentiment is overall still, you know, an important factor to consider. But again, taking a look at just strictly technical analysis, we did talk about how we are potentially, again, perfectly bouncing off the area that we needed to bounce, which is a great sign so far. We did touch my overall kind of main-ish price target of the 180s that we bounced off of, which is a great sign as well. We have the EMA, which is still well above us. The Bollinger Band, we are so far below the Bollinger Band that it can't even keep up. That's how far below and how potentially like oversold we are. So this, you can see now it's starting to expand. Now we are starting to get a bit of that move that I was talking about, where it starts to not contract but expand. So we are starting to get that move, and this was quite a move actually, because not only did we drop quite a bit, but we ended up dropping in just even the last 3 days from the top to the bottom. The last 3 days we dropped almost 17% in 3 trading days. That is a lot, right? That is a lot from top to bottom, right? So if you bought at the top on just literally 3 days ago, on I think this was Friday, you're down 16% already within 3 days, right? On a mega cap. It's not like a penny stock, it's a mega cap, right? It's a massive stock. It's a huge stock that has like a decent weight on the market overall. So that's not, you know, it's not some kind of meme stock, though I believe some people probably view it as such. Anyways, the point is the fact that we are so far below the Bollinger Band that it's not even keeping up with us. That's something to consider as well, guys, right? That's pretty important. We're all below, we're below the 50, we're below the 200, we're below the 10, we're below the 5. I'm not even gonna bother looking at them. We'll look at the 5 actually. The 5 and the 10 you can see are, you know, catching up to us, but still below it as well. But the main thing I'm personally noticing here is the fact that we are setting a higher low while the stock is setting a lower low, right? Higher low on the R side, lower low on the stock. That is a bullish divergence to me. Something else to consider though, this is where things get a little more complicated in my opinion. So, you know, I talk about the VIX, if it ever follows the market, that to me is suspicious. Well, it's suspicious because now the VIX is green with a green market. That is suspicious to me, right? We had when I talked about it earlier, I think it was like back here somewhere, we had a red VIX on a red market and we bounced and we ran up beautifully, very nice stuff. And now the opposite is happening. I talked about the same thing, right? When we have a VIX following the market, in this case, a green VIX with a green market, that to me sounds like a potential bull trap. Doesn't have to be necessarily like starting tomorrow, we're dropping. Could be, doesn't have to be. But the point is the fact that it's suspicious and it's something kind of smelly essentially is around the corner. That's something else to consider as well. I did enter SPY puts today and I exited for a quick 10% profit. And then I'm pretty much going to be using any profit I get from short-term trades just to fund more purchase of Tesla shares. That's kind of the way I currently view it at the very moment. But yeah, so I'm personally going to re-enter SPY puts if we get a green day tomorrow, because I personally think that the SPY is going to start falling down pretty aggressively after CPI, which is of course on Thursday. It's something else to very important to keep in mind, or to remember. That is extremely important. I definitely think we might get a decent fall off of CPI. We'll see what it comes in at, of course, but I definitely think that would be most likely a fall. So I want to personally reload some SPY puts as a hedge, I guess, also against Tesla. But the reason I think it's complicated is because, well, Tesla doesn't really follow the market, at least right now. But then it's also like, well, if SPY were to, let's say, crash from here, right, after CPI, like, what does that do to Tesla? Does Tesla just completely ignore it? Does it just continue doing its own thing? Maybe it starts going green when the market's red. It's possible. Or does the market crashing potentially after CPI make Tesla crash even further? That's the part that's a little confusing, because right now, just through technical analysis, Tesla seems like it needs to get a bit of a bounce here, a bit of a relief. But if the market is on the verge of potentially crashing in just like 2 days, let's say, what does that do to Tesla, right? That's the part I'm still a little bit unsure about. But just through straight technical analysis, Tesla to me looks like it's poised for a rally, or not a rally, but at least some kind of bounce. So we'll see what comes with that. I did buy 100 shares. Like I said, that one's more of a swing trade. I'm not sure if I plan on holding that just yet, but I do plan on holding my TFS or my second account, which is like a tax-free account, average of $200 right now. I have about 150 shares, I believe. Let me see how much I have. Yeah, I have 100 and no, I have more than that. I didn't add it yet. I have like almost 200 shares on that account. So I will be kind of, probably holding that unless we get a massive rally, then I'll swing it. But ultimately, that's kind of what I'm seeing. And the final thing I want to talk about that's extremely important, this is also kind of related to market sentiments, is the head and shoulders. So the infamous head and shoulders that Tesla has, right? So in my opinion, the head and shoulders isn't truly invalidated. I personally don't think it's invalidated until we break 180s. If Tesla ever breaks the 180s, we pretty much get a guaranteed fall to 150. Just keep that in mind, because there's a lot of room to fall. And on top of that, Tesla will potentially validate the head and shoulders pattern. But essentially, everyone is looking at this, which is making me suspicious. But essentially, everyone is looking at more or less this pattern right here: the head and shoulders, left shoulder, right shoulder, head. It's a bearish pattern. It's a very big pattern here we have on the weekly, right? It's a massive head and shoulders, like very, very big head and shoulders pattern, right? Which is, of course, a little bit on the suspicious end. However, the thing that makes me a little bit concerned, I guess, in a way, is it just feels like too many people are looking at this. I just feels like everyone and their mother is looking at this pattern right now. Like everyone is pointing out, like, Tesla, massive head and shoulders, it's gonna crash, it's about to break, it's about to go to, like, some people are saying like $110, price target 110 from the head and shoulders. Like everyone is pointing it out. And the fact that everyone sees this pattern and everyone apparently just is waiting for it to play out really makes me suspicious. It really, really does. Now, I'm not saying I'm not saying we can't go to, like, let's say 150. I think that's still very much in the cards. But the fact that, like, it feels like so many people are just eyeballing this head and shoulders, and then, like, everyone and their mother is just waiting for it to play out, it feels like, makes me think that, you know what, just because everyone's willing to or waiting for it, makes me think it might not actually happen, right? Again, that's just something to consider, right, in terms of sentiment, because the market is not that easy, right? The market doesn't make it always, like, that obvious, right? And the fact that everyone just sees this, it's almost too obvious, I guess, is the best way to put it, right? So we'll see what it comes down to. We'll see how it plays out. Of course, I will have cash in my reserves ready to go if it does play out, and if we do crash to like 150 or somehow even lower, I guess, which I don't think we will. I think 150 should be the lowest. I think, like, absolute, like, horrible worst case scenario, like, literally just, my God, what happened is 120. But that's just like, man, that is just like, that's just like, that's really bad, right? So we'll see what happens with that. We'll see what happens, guys. But that's kind of what I'm seeing at the very moment. The main thing to note is the fact that Tesla is, of course, making 52-week lows. I still think there's a potential chance we go to 182. However, I do think that we are poised for a bounce. I do think with the fact that we are still setting and holding this bullish divergence is a great sign on the RSI while we're making lower lows. And that's about it. This video is getting too long, but went on a bit of a tangent. I apologize. Sometimes I just happen to do that. But that's it for the video. Let me know what you think down below, and I'll see you for the next one. Peace.